Adultery is an unjust. He who commits adultery feels in his commitment. He does injury to the sign of the covenant which the marriage bond, transgresses the rights of other spouses, and undermines the institution of marriage by breaking the contract on which it is based. He compromises the good of human generation and the welfare of children who need their parents' stable union. Divorce is a grave offense against the natural law. It claims to break the contract to which the spouse freely consented to live with each other till death. Divorce does injury to the covenant of salvation, of which sacramental marriage is a sign. Contracting a new union, even if it is recognized by civil law, adds to the gravity of the rupture. The remarried spouse is then in a situation of public and permanent adultery. If a husband separated from his wife approaches another woman, he is an adulterer because he makes that woman commit adultery. And the woman who lives with him is an adulteress because she has drawn another husband to herself. Catholics believe that Jesus has the authority to forgive sins because he is God and he has passed that authority to his disciples, who in turn gave the same authority to bishops and priests. Catholics also teach that forgiveness reconciles the believer with God. Through the sacrament of penance, Catholics can confess their sins and ask a priest to absolve them of their sins. Adultery, unfaithfulness to a spouse, is a sin that Catholic priests can forgive. Catholics teach that if two people have sexual relations and at least one of them is married to another, they have both committed adultery. Catholics believe that adultery is forbidden by the Sixth Commandment and the New Testament. They also teach that adultery represents the sin of idolatry, loving another god. Adultery is equally commended by Catholics because they believe it destroys the marriage bond and harms children by weakening the family environment. If it's so clear-cut, though, why then do so many, especially professing Christians, fall into the snares of adultery? The answers to these are varied. Some fall into adultery without ever having realized they were at risk. They'll claim that it's just happened. Others will cite an unhappy marriage that was effectively over anyway, and the trust was justified by the pursuit of happiness. Others still will commit acts of adultery that they don't even realize it's adultery.
In the Bible, there are many texts about adultery and about why it shouldn't be performed. Exodus 20:14, you shall not commit adultery. Deuteronomy 5:18, you shall not commit adultery. Leviticus 20:10, if a man commits adultery with his neighbor's wife, both the adulterer and the adulteress shall be put to death. Proverbs 6:32, but he who commits adultery is a fool. He who would destroy himself does it. Matthew 5:27, you have heard that it was said, you shall not commit adultery. But I say to you, everyone who looks at a woman with lust has already committed adultery with her in his heart. Matthew 5:32, but I say to you, whoever divorces his wife unless the marriage is unlawful causes her to commit adultery, and whoever marries a divorced woman commits adultery. Matthew 15:19, for from the heart come evil thoughts, murder, adultery, unchastity, theft, false witness, blasphemy. Matthew 19:9, I say to you, whoever divorces his wife unless the marriage is unlawful and marries another commits adultery. Matthew 19:18, he asked him, which ones? And Jesus replied, you shall not kill, you shall not commit adultery, you shall not steal, you shall not bear false witness. Mark 10:19, you know the commandments, you shall not kill, you shall not commit adultery, you shall not steal, you shall not bear false witness, you shall not defraud, honor your father and your mother. Romans 13:9, the commandments, you shall not commit adultery, you shall not kill, you shall not steal, you shall not covet, and whatever other commandment there may be, are summed up in his saying, namely, You shall love your neighbor as yourself. The reason for instituting his commandment against adultery are twofold. First, God established the institution of marriage as being between one man and one woman. Genesis 2:24, reiterated by Jesus in Matthew 19:5 and parallel passages. God created marriage to be the building block of his creation and of society. Even after the fall, marriage is still a sacred union and the foundation for society. In marriage, the full expression of the image of God is made manifest as the man and the woman complement and complete each other. The Bible also teaches us that marriage is the vehicle through which God designed the procreation of the human race and the preservation of godly offspring. With such a premium placed on marriage, it's no wonder God would seek to protect this union from defilement, and thus prohibit adultery, which is the violation of the sacred marriage union. Amen.